Welcome into the Thursday, November 2nd edition of the Super Will Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Will, joined as always by my co-host, Tyler Shibish. Tyler, how are you doing?
Hello. Good. I'm doing great. I know we missed like a week or two. I always like getting back in the swing of things, talking football.
Yeah, I mean, we're busy people, but this is last week, Alabama was on a bye week, so it's
so who
okay for us.
cares?
This week, though, we've got a formidable foe, so we'll talk about that game as always towards the end of the show. But the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna break down kind of how the games this weekend went. There are some upsets, and then we'll talk about the AP poll, and then we'll preview the game. So the first game we'll talk about for our Week 9 recap is Kansas knocked off Oklahoma 38-33. The spread on this game was like 8.5 points, and I was like, okay, it's at Kansas. Kansas is a feisty team, but I didn't really expect them to beat Oklahoma. Granted, Oklahoma previous week had almost lost to UCF. But I was surprised that Kansas won. As always, the Big 12 is a dumpster fire and impossible to predict. But what did you think of this game?
I think that Oklahoma was one of those teams that was riding on like a couple decent wins, but they were one of those teams that like their record was a little bit better than they actually are. And props to them, I think they weren't they under 500 last year, or like right at 500?
Yeah, they were terrible last year.
Under Brett Venables' like first year.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm happy that they're doing well, but also it's domino number one in the inevitable Alabama to the playoffs push at the end of the season. That's domino number one. We needed Oklahoma to lose because an undefeated Oklahoma would have a claim over us. But I will say, like, watching the game, it was a good game. I think that Dylan Gabriel, he been doing his thing. He had a not great pick six, and that was the difference. But they came back. They took the lead again, I think, with like a minute to go, and then Kansas came down and scored to win the game. So props to Kansas. I mean, I didn't expect them to win. I was hoping they'd put up a good fight, but it was a good game. And I think that of the early games too, that was by far the most competitive. Like there was a bunch of games that were like supposed to be good, quote unquote games, but they all ended up being like really one-sided. So that was definitely the one I was paying the most attention to.
Yeah, I had my eye on that. And then I was also watching Penn State struggle against Indiana at home. So that was frustrating. But yeah, there weren't, honestly, overall, the games weren't that great. I mean, you had like Oregon played, who we'll talk about in a second here, but that game ended up being a blowout. But this week knock on wood, should be a better week. But kind of going into Week 9 with some of the teams that were on a bye and just looking at the schedule, didn't think it'd be all that great. But yeah, Oklahoma, I mean, things don't get any easier for them this week. They've got the last bedlam ever. Obviously, that's the Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State rivalry, and Oklahoma's reeling, whereas Oklahoma State is surging right now. So that'll be a tough one for them. But Oregon throttled Utah 35-6. Oregon looks great right now. We talked about them a couple weeks ago when they lost to Washington. Obviously, tough game to lose for them, but they're trending in the right direction. And you look at that game, and we both agreed that if you play it on a neutral site, Oregon's more than likely gonna win that. But obviously, we'll get to see that, barring anything crazy. Which in the Pac-12, kind of like the Big 12, you never really know what you're gonna get. But Oregon looked great. Bo Nix, I still feel like, I mean, I'm the one who predicted him to win the Heisman. I still think he's being slept on a little bit. If you look at his numbers, he has similar stats to Penix and Jaden Daniels and some of these other guys that are higher up on the list than he is, but he's got like lesser attempts throwing the ball. So I think kind of there still needs to be a little more Bo Nix Heisman hype, but as we're kind of in the stretch run and where you have the most important games of the season, we'll kind of get to see, his name pick up some steam in the Heisman race, I think, especially if Oregon's a playoff team.
Yeah. And also, like, I'm sure but for anyone out there that doesn't know, I think last game or maybe 2 games ago, Bo Nix officially became the most experienced starting quarterback in all of college football history. Like the most starts ever for any player at quarterback, which is kind of impressive to me. Also, it's more impressive to me that everyone sees that and talks about him like he's been playing forever, which he has, obviously. But he's only 23. I mean, Hendon Hooker was what, 2 years older than him?
Yeah, Hendon Hooker was 25 when he got drafted.
So that's very impressive to me that he's managed to get that many starts. Like, Grant, because I mean, you have to start as a freshman all the way through like a redshirt senior year to even have a chance, like every game. But it's impressive. And just looking at his stats real quick, I didn't realize he only has 1 interception on the year. And 21 total touchdowns.
He's been great. I mean, yeah, like your mom said, he has played college football for a while, but I think him transferring to Oregon was the best thing he could do. Auburn was a dumpster fire. You had the fact that his dad went there, and so he was a legacy. There were just a lot of distractions for him. Local kid, too, grew up probably like hour and a half away from Auburn. So I think he made the right decision going to the West Coast and kind of getting away from all that. And kind of similar to DJ Uiagalelei for Clemson, these guys decided to remove themselves from bad situations and make the most of it elsewhere. They've both done well. I mean, obviously DJ to a lesser extent, but he's done pretty well for Oregon State. Bo Nix has done really well for Oregon, and I don't know. People are quick to make fun of Bo Nix, and they got all these jokes about him, but I actually like him as a quarterback, and like I keep saying, I mean, he's kind of being slept on, and I wouldn't be shocked if he somehow slid his way into the bottom of the first round or something if he continues to play at the level that he's playing at. But the flip side to the game, obviously we're talking a lot about Oregon, is Utah, and Utah's a great program. They've done a lot of good things under Kyle Whittingham. They just don't have a lot of talent this year. I mean, Cam Rising was supposed to be back for the start of the season, and he's their best offensive guy. I mean, he's a leader. He's a quarterback. He has a lot of experience. So not having him, they've kind of pedaled their way along. They've won some close games by not really having a great offensive showing. But they fought, but Oregon was just, even on the road, was too much for them. They're also missing a starting tight end. So just kind of, I want to give Utah their roses and give them credit because they're a great program. But
yeah,
Oregon dismantled them completely this past weekend. But Oregon's a good football team. Georgia surges without Brock Bowers, wins 43-20. I need to stop picking against Georgia when it comes to covering the spread because they somehow find a way to do it in these big games. They're favored by, I think, 16 points or 15.5. And even without Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey stepped up. And I remember after the first drive, I mean, Florida goes down the field, they score. And I was thinking this is going to be a close game. And then it just wasn't. Florida continued to shoot themselves in the foot and sputter like they've done since the beginning of the year. And I mean, props to Georgia. And the more I think about it, obviously, we're Alabama fans and a lot of people want Georgia to lose, but I think it would almost be poetic for us to meet them again in Atlanta and play in the SEC championship game. And I feel like, I mean, they would feel the same way. I mean, we root against each other, but at the same time, there's a level of respect that we have, that we have for them and they have for us as a program. And I mean, it's must-see TV. I mean, you got the revenge factor too. So I want Alabama to be the team that if anybody's going to knock off Georgia, I want it to be Alabama. I think you would probably agree with that sentiment as well.
Yeah, I agree. And also, man, Billy Napier, what a hiring. They looked better under Dan Mullen, in my opinion, Florida as a team. Granted, they have less talent this year, right?
I think they've had a lot of tough games or basically tough matchups really this year that haven't really favored them.
The thing about Florida, though, is it's supposed to be one of those blue blood programs, right, where it always has a lot of talent and always. So you can't use tough games as an excuse. I mean, Alabama has tough games every year, and they still manage to win.
I think they're trending upward. I mean, the program was an absolute dumpster fire before Billy Napier took over, and so it's going to take a while. I think that's kind of something we struggle with is patience when it comes to these coaches at big programs. And if you look at recruiting. They're up there for this recruiting class. Basically, you've got Florida's become an absolute battleground state, not for teams like Alabama and USC and all these other SEC teams that have in the past just come in there and plucked out players, like the best players. But Florida State, Miami, are all battling for those in-state kids. So I mean that's good to see. It's kind of separate little side tangent topic, but I think they're heading in the right direction. And Graham Mertz is really, I mean, you and I are big Graham Mertz guys since his time in Wisconsin, and I think we were expecting him to do well this year, and he's done pretty well for them. So they've got some good things kind of trending in the right direction for them. But yeah, they were just completely overmatched by Georgia, and I'm done doubting Georgia. I mean, this is supposedly their toughest stretch. You got Missouri, you've got Ole Miss, and then you travel to Tennessee. But I think they're going to win all those games. So I'm gonna assume that they win all those games and they cover the massive spreads that will be for all those. But I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped one of them. I would rather them remain perfect and then play them. So, but kind of finishing up here, Duke got destroyed by Louisville. Duke's been kind of hard to predict this year. Same with Louisville, but 23-0. They actually play tonight. I guess Riley Leonard is injured. He's out for that game, so they're playing a feisty Wake Forest team. So I don't know how that one will go, but yeah, they did not do too well against Louisville. And then USC just defensively so bad.
It's impressive how bad.
And they're a team that I've picked, I think, 3 weeks in a row to cover the spread, and they've just let me down. And Cal, they're playing Cal. And you win 50-49. You win by 1 point against Cal.
Yeah, and it's impressive too because Lincoln Riley brought a lot of 5-stars like on the defensive side with him as well. So I don't know if it's like just his like fingerprints on the defense that's doing it, or if he just can't hire a good defensive coordinator to save his life, or they don't have the talent, or a combination of all three. But
I think Lincoln Riley is very cocky when it comes to his teams because offensively, I mean, he always has great offenses. He always has great quarterbacks. He's, if not the best, one of the best at developing quarterbacks. I mean, we saw what he did with Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts transferred there from Alabama. But it's hard for me to feel bad for him when your defensive coordinator that you had at Oklahoma, who wasn't very good, you decide. I mean, he must be buddies with Alex Grinch to bring him over to USC and have him be the defensive coordinator after what happened to Oklahoma. And I mean, what do you think it's going to be any different? Last year, he was the defensive coordinator. They weren't very good. This year, same thing. So it kind of makes you wonder if the defense continues to be this bad, and even if it improves a little bit, I mean, you can't. It's tough to justify keeping a guy like that around, regardless of how close you are, because looking at USC, this is a team that people had in their Final Four, a team people picked to win the national championship. I thought that was crazy because regardless of how great your offense is, I mean, we'll kind of see that this week with LSU, you cannot win a national championship or even squeak into the playoffs if your defense is abysmal.
They're giving up almost 50.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see. I mean, this week they play Washington. That's, I guess, a potential upset game, but defense is just so bad. I mean, the spread for that game, or not the spread, the over-under, I think is like 70-something.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, Washington is going to lose to USC because that's just how the Pac-12 is.
Yeah, you said that. I think it was a couple of weeks ago or maybe even before that. It's a round-robin of chaos. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why the Pac-12 can't have nice things. Like, they just beat each other up.
They love shooting themselves in the foot. And then Tennessee won against Kentucky. Despite they lost to us, a tough game, and they complained about it like babies, but they took care of business against Kentucky. Not really much to say about that game. I think we both kind of predicted Tennessee to win. I didn't think it'd be a pretty game, but I figured they'd get a way to get it done. And then finishing with the Week 9 recap, Ohio State won 24-10, played Wisconsin. Kind of a weird game, night game. Wisconsin, record-wise, isn't the best, but they've got some guys on their team. They've got a great running back, and they actually have one of the better corners in the country. So offensively, Ohio State just kind of finds ways to get it done. Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely helps to have him on a team. He had a big game Saturday night, but kind of just looking at Ohio State, the way I look at them is kind of like the way I look at Alabama. That I still we still have yet to see them round into their final form. I think Bama more so, like we've seen more from them, but Ohio State offensively still leaves a lot to be desired. But they're finding ways to win. People are doubting them, but
you want to hear the most insane take I saw the other day? So like I follow a lot of like NFL draft things too, and like obviously people are already talking about like, oh, this guy, whatever. And I saw a post that was like, know who I think is getting slept on as far as quarterbacks go this year? Kyle McCord. I mean, he's the quarterback of the number 1 team in college football. Dude, against Wisconsin, he had 230 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. 130 yards, and both of those touchdowns were from Marvin Harrison Jr.
And like, you know what it is too. It's Marvin Harrison on a crosser, and then he takes off and
right.
75.
Well, I mean, okay, then you're getting into Tua territory, and we've been there. But my point is, I think that's one of the craziest takes I've ever seen. Because like Kyle McCord, I still can't tell if he's decent or not, right? Because he has these decent games and like they win. But a lot of that game was decent because he's throwing to Marvin Harrison, right? And I think that having a receiver like that can help kind of placate a lot of the issues that a quarterback has. But anyway, I just thought you would get a kick out of that because Kyle McCord is like not even in my top 10 like quarterbacks to draft right now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way about McCord that I did about McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy's been done a little bit more, but two guys right there that are kind of just latching on to their teams.
That one's interesting to me, and I will say because I think JJ McCarthy I like a lot more than Kyle McCord, just simply because he doesn't make the mistakes that McCord does.
Well,
like he hasn't been asked to do as much as like McCord, but he's done like better with the worst receiving core, and just doesn't. I don't know. I think he's shown a lot more potential than McCord has.
Yeah, he has. I just mean in the sense that they're both kind of riding the coattails of, you know, with Michigan, their running game, and with Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. But anyways, the first college football rankings came out. The first official rankings came out this week. A lot of people were surprised that Ohio State was number 1. I'm not too surprised given their strength of schedule compared to the 2 teams that are below them, Georgia and Michigan. But kind of just looking at it, I mean, obviously Alabama is number 8. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on just teams that are too high or teams that you think are too low on here.
So I was one of the people that was surprised that Ohio State was number 1. 1, I don't think they did enough to jump Georgia in my mind. But 2, I think that Michigan's been the best team in college football. If it was up to me, Michigan would be number 1. I mean, you're just looking at their margin of victory. Yeah, I get it, strength of schedule and everything. 49, 45, 42, 38, 24, 25, 28, 27. That's all their games so far. Like the lowest win has been by 25 points. And I get it. You know, they haven't played as anyone as good. But I think Michigan's been by far the best team. Like they're the most complete. I think their offense has been rolling. Their defense is pitched. They're coming off of, I guess they had a bye this last week. But they're coming off of a shutout against their in-state rival, Michigan State, 49-0. Granted, that's not impressive. Michigan State's bad. But one of my coworkers went to Michigan State, and I told him get ready for like a 30-point loss, and he was like, 30's not high enough. And sure enough, he was right. And then just kind of spitballing some other teams. I think that Ole Miss being 2 spots behind Alabama is kind of surprising. I think that's a little high.
I mean, it helps Alabama a lot, but that was one that surprised me. They've only lost 1 game, and it was to Alabama. They've looked pretty good this year, but I was very surprised that they were 10 and we're 8. But strength of schedule.
Yeah. I would take Notre Dame as well above LSU. I think that Notre Dame's 2 losses are more impressive than LSU's. But I guess if you're ranking Ole Miss at, 10, then it makes sense because that's one of LSU's losses. But Notre Dame should have, for all intents and purposes, beat Ohio State. And then there are other losses to Louisville. I think that they're a little should be a little bit higher than LSU. Utah as well. I mean, look, Utah's had a great season. You just saw them play the first like good team they've played, really, and they kind of got smacked. So I don't know if I would think them up there. And then same with Tennessee. I think that Tennessee is riding a decently easy schedule and some hype from last year. But it's weird because like it's too early because all these teams that are up there right now are 1-2 or 0-loss teams. It's kind of hard to be like, oh, this team doesn't deserve it. In a couple of weeks, Tennessee keeps winning, then sure, they're like 15 or whatever. But I don't know. I think the top 10 though, besides me putting Michigan at 1 and then like Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, or maybe even Florida State 3. Honestly, Ohio State 4. Other than that, I'm like not mad about the top 10 at all. I think that Oklahoma's going to lose another game soon, but right now they deserve to be at 9. But anyway, what do you think?
I like the way that the committee did the first rankings. Usually it's kind of cut and paste. Like I was expecting Georgia to be number 1 and there not to be any big statements, but I like how they're setting strength schedule as like a precedent, something that's going to be important. And I also think that, helps Bama out a lot because they've had a lot of tough games this year. So I don't have any quorums really with the rankings. Kind of looking at it though, they're too high and too low. I guess I agree with you on Utah. I would probably have them 25 or maybe even outside the top 25. I just haven't been too sold on them. I think Florida State's good. I think that what are they? 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 is a little bit high for them. I think Oregon's too low too. They're one loss at Washington. They could have just easily won that game. And I get you rank Washington ahead of them, but I would probably, if I was doing these rankings, I would put Oregon over Michigan. Which kind of sounds crazy, but I don't know. I'm not. For Michigan, you can only play who's on your schedule, and they're taking care of business. That's all you can really do. But at the same time, I haven't been too sold on them. And they have yet to play anybody great, but I don't know. I think Oregon's battle tested, whereas Michigan isn't.
This is an extreme hater take as well, but I don't think that Air Force should be ranked. I think.
Oh my gosh! Come on. Well, you don't like the service academies? You hate the troops now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I hate the troops. Both my parents were in the Air Force for 25 years, so this is not biased at all. I think that. Like you, what you just said, you put it well. You can only play who's on your schedule, right? But yes, Air Force is a no. Who's the most impressive win on their resume, though? Like,
I don't know, but I think when you're doing like, once you get to that like 25 to 30 range, you're kind of looking at like, hey, I don't know if Air Force, when the last time they've ranked has been. So it's kind of, there's some media narratives that go into that. And it's exciting. It's exciting that they're 8-0. Obviously, like you said, they haven't really played anybody, but I think that 25 spot is kind of just like.
Yeah, just kind of like a recognition thing. I can get behind that. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not super mad about it. I just don't think they're the 25th best team. I think that a lot of teams with 3, even 4 losses would kind of smack them. But I do agree. It's kind of like a fun, hey, like, look at these guys. Same with James Madison. I saw that they were like ranked in the AP poll, and they deserve it. They're 9-0 now. So good for them. And I do kind of like the idea of it as like a recognition spot more than anything else. It's just kind of funny for the playoff rankings that it's cool to be like, hey, Air Force is ranked, but realistically, they're not the 25th best team in the country.
Yeah, I don't think James Madison is even in this. Yeah, they're not. They're
not in the playoff rankings. They're in the AP poll.
I would put them. Well, I think the college football rankings were pretty spot on. Like, we haven't had much to complain about. I was looking at it and trying to think where I would put them, but I guess maybe you put them at 25 and then you boot Air Force, but
so
I don't know. I was very pleased with the first ranking, to which a lot of time I'm just kind of like.
I was just kind of laughing because in the AP poll, James Madison is 1 spot ahead of USC now after last week. They're 23. USC is 24.
I don't know about that, but I don't know.
Also, wait, what? How did Kansas not go up at all despite beating Oklahoma? That makes no sense. Oh wait, maybe they were unranked last week. That would make sense.
I don't think they are ranked.
They're 22 in the AP
at all. But kind of finishing up with the AP poll finishing up with the college football rankings. One more point talked about Georgia earlier. I mean, I think this is great for them. They have a chip on their shoulder. We saw last year that when they won the national championship, I can't remember who the player was, but he was like, "Oh, everybody doubted us. Thought we were going to lose 3 or 4 games." Right now, they're undefeated and they're the second best team or the second ranked team in the country. So I'm sure they're kind of PO'd about that.
This year too, I think I could buy the people doubted us. Last year, absolutely not. Running it back with the exact same team that just won the Natty, no way. But this year, people did kind of doubt them, right? And I'm still not like a Carson Beck truther at all, so I don't know. But I think that's more valid if they said it this year. People doubted us. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean this year, like you said, it is valid, but kind of the main theme, but was it people say like the cream rises to the top or whatever? Am I butchering that? Is that a phrase?
Yeah.
Okay. No. I'm just so we'll see.
Gonna make me bust out my macho man.
Hypothetical, I've already seen people. Well, if this is how it holds up, what happens if there's a one loss team? That stuff gives me a headache, and I don't even. I kind of played into it last year because Alabama lost. I mean, they could lose LSU this week, and then we kind of have to look at this, wait for everybody else. But I feel confident about our chances on Saturday. I don't think I'll have to resort to hypothetical, checking off, taking a list, putting it on a wall, and being like, okay, in this scenario, because that's what we were doing as fans last year. It sucks to do. We've never had to do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, just about everything worked out in our favor, and we still didn't get in. So I don't think we'll have to do that this year, but I've seen people already doing that with their respective teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the banter, and you got 2 different ranking systems right now. 3 if you count the J people, if anybody follows Josh Pate. But yeah, it was a great first ranking, not too much to complain about. But the Week 10 games, we've got Arkansas is +6 at Florida. I do not trust Arkansas as bad as Florida's loss was against Georgia. They did put up 20 points, which is, I think, more than Arkansas has had in their last 2 games. I completely made that up, but I don't think it's too far off, to be honest. So looking at that game, Texas is a lot of points. Wait, did I just butcher the games? Oh, no. Yeah. Arkansas is at Florida. I read that wrong. Okay. Sorry. We're good. +6 points. I think Florida covers. Back home, the swamp. Tough loss, like I said, at Georgia, but I think they cover. Arkansas is not very good. Don't trust them.
Listen, let me tell you a little thing about KJ Jefferson. Right. Noted KJ Jefferson hater over here. Not a believer at all. I don't think he's good. That being said, every time he has kind of a rough stretch, he has a good game just to keep people guessing, right? Just to keep them hooked. He's reeling you in. He's like, maybe he's good.
I'm one of those people.
Maybe he's a decent quarterback. You were on the line, hook, line, and sinker. I believe that this is going to be one of those games. I'm picking Arkansas to win money line. I believe that for whatever godforsaken reason, anytime that you think you're done with KJ Jefferson, he pulls you back in. Right? That's what he's doing. He's going to do that this week.
I can see it happening. I really wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to go with my gut with that one. Texas A&M is +3 at number 10, Ole Miss. Texas A&M's defense is great, and I think I'm higher on them than maybe some other people, but Ole Miss's offense has been phenomenal this year. They got the benefit of playing at home. I'm going to take Ole Miss to cover the 3 points there with that one. What about you?
I don't know. It would be the most Lane Kiffin.
I would just stay away from odd picks too.
Right. I would not bet on this one at all.
I was 4-6 last week on my predictions. So.
Ole Miss got ranked, 10 in the opening playoff rankings?
Yeah.
Be the most Lane Kiffin thing to just lose right away, right? Just to crush their little hearts. I think
it's an 11 a.m. game too. Just
I'm gonna pick Ole Miss to cover. I believe in the Lane train. That being said, would I be shocked if I look at the score and Texas A&M wins by 20? No.
The two shock games, 2 games. Because I wouldn't be surprised if A&M wins by 20, and then the same goes for Arkansas. I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 14. But hopefully I'm not on the wrong side of those, but I'm sure I will be. This one's interesting. Number 23, Kansas State, +4 at number 7, Texas. Kansas State is red hot right now. Texas won over BYU last week, but backup quarterback Malik Murphy kind of struggled, didn't really show. I mean, they won the game. I think his stat line was like 2 touchdowns and a pick, but I also think he had a fumble. A lot of picking Kansas State money line this week is very, very trendy. I wouldn't go as far to pick them money line just because it's at Texas, and I think Texas with Sarkisian, I mean, they still have a bunch of weapons. But I do think that they cover the 4 points. I think right now with the system they've got with Will Howard and then Avery Johnson coming in there and kind of mixing it up, running the ball, I think they cover the points. But I don't know. At Texas, it's going to be tough. I think Texas shows up, and it's a close game, but at 4 points, I'm going to take Kansas State to cover +4.
So that's where Avery Johnson went after we hired Nate Oates. Gotcha.
Yes, that Avery Johnson.
I'm going to hop on the trend. I think that, Quinn Ewers is still hurt, right? He's not playing.
Yeah, he's out. Malik Murphy.
I think I'm not a huge Malik Murphy believer. Like you said, he didn't look that great last week. I'm going to take the red-hot Kansas State to just win outright against Texas. And because I think, Texas is back, yada, yada, whatever. Okay, but they're not really. Like, they beat us. That was a good game. They played really well. But I think that's about the height of what they're going to achieve this year. And I think that it starts with a loss to Kansas State. Also, I feel a little vindicated, just a little bit, because I was an Arch Manning.
Manning might see snaps in this game. Their coach.
He might, maybe, but my point is that he didn't win the start, like the backup job outright, which is like some people in the preseason were calling for him to be the starter over Quinn Ewers. So I feel a little vindicated that he wasn't even playing with Quinn Ewers hurt, because he has a lot of potential, but his last year in high school he did not look great, and he wasn't playing in a super hard division.
Yeah,
I think he was a little bit overrated. I'll say it. Hot take, I know.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Number 15 Notre Dame minus number 3 Clemson. Not number 3 Clemson. At Clemson. I think Clemson's got like 3 wins right now.
They're 4-4, I think.
4-4, okay. Don't want to talk about the Dabo, like all the stuff going on with him, but I'm not Dabo's biggest fan right now. He's kind of been talking out of the other end recently.
His wazoo.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that somebody called in on the talk shows, Tyler from Spartanburg, and basically just asking what was wrong, and Dabo went off on the guy. And this is coming after the previous week where he was telling fans that they were spoiled. So I think Clemson right now is just reeling. I think Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of, like, I guess, talent at like skill positions, but they've got a good running game with Eastman. I think that's how you say it. Sam Hartman's a good quarterback, and their defense has played well. So I'm actually going to take Notre Dame minus the 3 points. I just think Clemson right now is just a dumpster fire. And I think Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman is going the complete opposite way.
I'm also going to take Notre Dame minus 3. I will say too about that whole like caller in thing. Didn't Dabo only go off the deep end when the guy like called out his salary or something? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
He said something about like making $12 million a year and then being bad, which, like, I get it. You never yell at your fans. It's stupid. But at the same time, if you mess up at your job at work and someone's like, "Oh, you're making this much money, why can't you do it better?" Like, it'd be a little annoying. I'd be a little PO'd by that. So, I get it. But also, come on, man. You got to admit you are underperforming. the team that was becoming like a dynasty to rival Alabama for a couple of years just has completely vanished. You're not looking nearly as good now that Brett Venables is left. That's funny. Anyway, yeah, I'm taking Notre Dame money line, or Notre Dame money line, or -3. Sorry.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
Number 11, Penn State -8.5 at Maryland. The Penn State Ohio State game just completely took all the life out of me. I mean, it just so bad. And then you followed it up at home last week with a embarrassing, almost loss to Indiana. I'm gonna stay. Maryland with Talia, they've been kind of feisty this year. I'll take Penn State money line, but I'm just staying away from the spread. I mean, last week was awful. It was so bad. But positive from last week is that Drew Aller kind of woke up and showed that he can throw the ball. So maybe they uncork him in this game and they cover the spread. But they'll find a way to win. I'm just staying away from the 8.5 points.
I'm gonna take Maryland to cover. I think that Penn State, despite being 6-1 and ranked 11 or something like that, I just have not been like super wowed by them, and I've said it every week. And you kind of touched on it. He had a good week last week, or a decent week last week, but Drew Aller to me has just been so disappointing from all the hype that he had coming in. And Ohio State, he completed like 42% of his passes for 190 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, that was
like
so bad.
And it's just, I think that you can't keep getting away with that, right? And expect to be like a competitor. And so, I mean, I think they're going to win. I think that Maryland will keep it close.
That's fair. I can see that. All right, number 9, Oklahoma, -6 at Oklahoma State. Touched on this earlier. It's a bedlam final game, big time rivalry. You've got two teams like just completely opposites. Oklahoma almost loses to UCF, then proceeds to go to Kansas and lose. And they're playing an Oklahoma State team that's red hot. I don't know if you've heard of their running back. I've kind of become familiar with him literally over the last couple of weeks. He's a sophomore. His name's Ollie Gordon II. Mm-hmm. He has over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. And if you watch him, they kind of say like he reminds him of a giraffe because he's got these long legs and these long strides, and he's 6'1". Like he's a lot of fun, but he's got speed too for his size. But I think Oklahoma right now, yeesh, that's all I gotta say. And 6 points. 6 points is a lot on the road. Your favorite, and in the last time this game will ever be played. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State, the red hot fighting Mike Gundy. Is Mike Gundy even still the coach there? I'm going to take them to cover the 6 points. I'm not going to take them to win because this is kind of also a wounded animal potential mode for Oklahoma where they just come out and they take care of business. So I'm going to be conservative, and I'm going to take Oklahoma State to cover the 6 points. I would try and obviously get it. Maybe, if you could get it at like a 7 or 7.5, but I like that the 6 number. I'm comfortable with that as well.
Yeah. Wait. So I'm like looking at their games. Wait, is this from this year?
Oh.
Has DJ Uyunglele been hurt?
Who?
Wait, am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Oregon State.
Same colors, wrong team.
That's why I was so confused. Okay, that makes so much more sense. Sorry, my brain this whole time while you were talking, I was looking at the stats to try to bring something up, and then I kept seeing Alan Bowman.
I bet Spencer Sanders wishes he was there instead of riding the bench at freaking Ole Miss. Like that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay. But I just completely fried my own brain over the process this whole time. I was like looking at Oak State every week, and I was like, Alan Bowman. But where's DJ? When did he get hurt? And then I'm like, wait, wrong team. Same colors, wrong team. Anyway, Oak State. I mean, they're 6-2, and like you said, what was it? 8-point spread, something like that. It was either 8 or
6 points for
6.5.
week. Yeah, and the spread right now is 6.
Okay.
For the game, I feel that's just a big number.
I'm going to take Oak State to win, outright. Like I said,
you're going balls to the wall this week.
I'm going balls to the wall. Yeah. No, I think that Oklahoma, They had a really emotional win against Texas. And in the same vein that I said that Texas's win against us is probably going to be like the highlight of their season, I think that'd probably be like the high point for Oklahoma as well. Like I said, I think that their record is a little bit better than they are as a team right now. And they've been very solid. I just don't think that they're in that like top 10 range. And I think they vaulted there because of the win against Texas, because Texas was ranked like 4 at the time or whatever. But I do think that they're going to come out and they're going to put up a fight, but they're ultimately going to lose to State.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a scenario where both Texas and Oklahoma lose. I wouldn't be all that shocked. I think for the Texas side, I do selfishly. I mean, if we win out and take care of business, we'll be in. But strength of schedule does hurt us. Let's say Texas loses to Kansas State, although they'll say that the Arch Manning is the reason why. It does help us if they kind of take care of business the rest of the year. But would not be shocked if both these teams fall this weekend. Number 12, Missouri, plus 15.5 at number 2, Georgia. I think Missouri they're a good football team, and Drinkowitz has done a good job with them. They're fun to watch on offense. Defensively, they're not really great. They're kind of feisty, but 15.5 points seems like a lot. But we saw what Georgia did to Florida. We saw what Georgia did to Kentucky. I keep doubting Georgia, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll take them. I don't like half numbers for this type of situation, so I'd say, for the purpose of this, plus 15.5. But if you're in an area where you can bet, I would get that down to like 15 or something. But I think Georgia at home is impossible to beat, essentially, even without Brock Bowers.
I so badly want to say that Missouri's going to win this game. I really do. I think they're going to cover. But this is one of those spreads where you look at it and you go, what does Vegas know that I don't? Right? 15.5 is, more like something's got to be going on for a top 15 team to be like 15.5 point dogs to Georgia. Yeah, it's on the road. Yeah, Georgia's number 1. But like
number 2, actually.
Number 2. Sorry, number 1 in the AP.
Number 1 in our hearts.
Number 1 in my heart and in the AP Bowl. Number 2 in the college football playoffs. See, this time of year is confusing if they don't line up, because it's like, do you rank them by the AP, which is still technically the rankings, or do you rank them by the college football playoff, which will matter at the end of the year, and like whatever. I so badly want to say Missouri is going to win, right? Like I just want Luther Burden to have 600 yards and 15 touchdowns.
To win is crazy. To cover, I mean, I can see maybe a little bit of hope, but they're not going to win this game.
Georgia's not winning out.
I think if you're looking at the games that they have remaining, this is not of the 3. I mean, it's, you got Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee. This is not going to be the spot that I would pick them to fall.
You're going to pick Ole Miss?
Maybe. I don't even know if I would. I mean, that's a home game for them too. Tennessee at the end of the year is the game that I would look at, because it's at Tennessee. We're going to assume that they take care of business against Ole Miss and Missouri. They're going to be kind of feeling their oats a little bit, talking about Brock Bowers coming back. They're going to get ahead of themselves a little bit. And Tennessee, I mean, let's say – I mean, I don't know how the rest of their season's going to go. I don't look at their schedule. Let's say they're trending in the right direction too. That's the game that I would pick for them to lose on the road in a tough environment in Neyland Stadium. But I just don't think – I mean, Ole Miss scores a lot of points. They're a feisty team. Missouri, kind of feisty offense. But I don't think either one of these next 2 games for Georgia is going to be the spot for them to fall.
You know what? You've convinced me. I've seen the light. Okay. I'm telling you, the script writer just emailed me the most recent script. Hold on,
let's hear it.
Okay. I just opened the files. It says right here, Georgia loses this week to Missouri, and then loses final week of the season to Tennessee, and Tennessee goes to the SEC championship game. I'm picking Missouri to win.
You're under underestimating Georgia at home. They played this game last year
Okay.
in Missouri, and it was a close game.
Yeah.
But I
And
just don't see it this year. I don't.
That's just my gut, man. There's no
All right.
reason. Like I said, Luther Burden, and then the quarterback. What was his name? It's like Quinn.
Brady Cook,
Brady Cook. I was gonna say Quinn Cook.
Connor Cook.
He's been very good this year. I think that. I don't know. Missouri's one of those like feisty young upstart teams that's overperforming. And they're gonna get a crazy win.
They're not good on defense though.
Georgia's not that great on offense, so it's fine.
They're the home advantage. Okay,
I
whatever.
don't care. I think home advantage is overrated. I really do. I think that
In college football, no, it's not. In the NFL, yes, it's completely overrated. But college football, I mean, you saw it in the Oregon-Washington game. That's a proof right there. That place was completely rowdy, and it helped Washington win the game. But we'll disagree. And it's a win-win situation for me. If I'm wrong, it's because Georgia lost, and I can be happy about that. But if I'm right, I'm right. So I'll take it. Number 5, Washington, -3 at number 20, USC. I know you're worried about kind of your little scripts that you're getting about these games.
Yeah.
Washington hasn't really looked great either. But Washington's defense isn't the best, but I trust their defense more than I trust USC's defense. USC's burned me the last 3 weeks, though. I don't. Screw it. I'll take USC money line in this game.
Yeah, hop on board.
Because I was thinking about it, then I was like, USC's got really good receivers. They're at home. They really have nothing left to play for at this point. Everybody's talking about Caleb Williams sitting the rest of the year. And Washington hasn't been playing too well. Penix last game, yikes, wasn't too good. So I'll take USC money line. I'll let them burn me for 4th week in a row. Why not?
So obviously I agree because I said earlier that I think USC is going to win. But let me pose an interesting question to you, okay? Let me just float this out there. This is more NFL than it is college. But if USC loses again, right, and then they lose against they haven't played Oregon, right? They still have to play Oregon.
No, they haven't played Oregon yet.
Right. So if they lose to Oregon as well, right? And it's the same issues why – because, I mean, these couple of games, Caleb Williams has definitely looked a lot more mortal. He's been
against
dancing around in the pocket too much.
Good teams. Yeah. Shocker.
He's been holding onto the ball too long, dancing around in the pocket too much. Do you think if he loses this game and the Oregon game, there's a chance that he could be the number 2 quarterback taken? He's talking because, like, going into the season and the start of the year, right, he was this generational prospect. Like, can't miss, top guy. As they started to play better and better teams, his flaws have kind of been highlighted a little bit more. And there's been a huge – okay, granted, it's not the best time to mention this because they just lost. But there's been a huge rise in Drake May stock as well. So how much of that do you think is legitimate? How much of that do you think is teams that just really want Caleb to fall for whatever reason?
I love this topic because this is the time of the year that it first starts getting brought up.
Right.
And every year this happens. Who was in Trevor Lawrence's class? I mean, every year.
Oh, was it the Zach Wilson number 1 overall thing?
Yes. Every year this happens. And
yeah.
Drake May is a lot better than Zach Wilson. This quarterback draft in general is, I mean, it's great. I love it. Every time I look at it, I get excited. I don't know if my team, the Commanders, is going to need a quarterback because Sam Howell's play well. Good. But I think it doesn't matter. There's the buzz and the hype that goes around. Caleb Williams is going to be the guy. I mean, he's going to be the number 1 pick. And
I agree.
It is interesting to see the hype. And Drake May, and I don't really think there's that much of a drop off between the two. It's kind of just like a 1A, 1B situation for me. And Caleb Williams has struggled against has played at a human level against the top teams that USC's played this year. But, I mean, you look at Caleb Williams, they don't really have a great offensive line. So I don't know. I think Caleb Williams will be the pick, but I think it's an interesting conversation. I mean, even the difference between Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Michael Penix and like scouts and eyes, we get to the end of the year, there might not be really a drop off between any of those guys, but I still think it's, in my mind, it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then Michael Penix. But like they're all three great quarterbacks. I just think there's no way. I mean, knock on wood, there's no way Caleb Williams isn't the first quarterback taken.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of interesting because I was just thinking about that, and then also I think it's interesting that my top quarterbacks are not your top three. I mean, I have Williams 1 and then May 2. I really like JJ McCarthy. Amazing. Just
because you see these mock drafts with him going to Vikings.
No. I like actually watch him play. Michael Penix scares me. He's older, has a history of really bad injuries, and like has a very quarterback-friendly offense where they throw the ball a lot. He's my number 4, right? I'd put him at 4. Actually, I don't know. It depends on if Shedeur Sanders goes to the draft because I think they're pretty close.
He will.
Okay, so then assuming that he doesn't, Penix is my 4, and then 5 would be probably Knicks, I guess.
I like Knicks a lot. I don't know if I'm ready to.
Oh, actually, just said go Tigers. That gets me thinking. I do like Jaden Daniels a lot as well. I can't lie. As a prospect, he's played very well this year.
That's my roommate in college. That's his dad. He's a LSU fan. They're big LSU fans. So
yeah, just it got me thinking about it. And then anyway.
Yeah, no, Jaden Daniels is great, and we'll obviously, when we talk about the Alabama game here shortly, we'll talk about Jaden Daniels and what he's been able to do for that LSU team this year. But last couple games here, we got Miami versus NC State. Miami almost lost last week against UVA, I believe, but -4.5. Van Dyke has been awful. He had like 2 picks last week. I'm going to take Miami to cover the 4.5 points just because I don't trust NC State. And, Miami's got a bunch of talent, and I like Mario Cristobal as a coach. I've always been a big Mario Cristobal guy. So I think Miami covers the 4.5 points. But, I mean, it might be a close game up until like the fourth quarter.
I am actually going to pick NC State to win just because they're coming off a big win against Clemson. Finally got the monkey off their back, right? They haven't really been able to like beat Clemson in a while.
Everybody's punching.
I know, exactly. And it's such like a good confidence booster for all these ACC teams, right? Like, boom, take that Clemson. Like, you're finally bad this year, losers. It was a bad loss against Duke, right? And then they lost to Louisville. They played Louisville really close. Louisville's a good team this year. And then they lost to Notre Dame. So, like, they have a couple of losses, but besides the Duke one, the other 2 are top 15 teams. Top, 12 teams, I think, actually, if you want to get technical about it. And they're coming off, like, a big win against Clemson. Like you said, Miami's kind of looked up and down. They barely held on against Virginia. It was a 3-point win.
Yeah, Miami has been the definition of up and down this year. Some games you're like, Texas A&M game, you're like, this Miami team's great.
Yeah.
And then you see them shoot themselves in the foot, and you're like, this is absolutely
Yeah,
brutal.
some games they look great. Some games they literally have the game won and then hand the ball off instead of kneeling it. Which is just top 10, like, worst game calls I've ever seen. I'm picking NC State to win moneyline.
All right. The Alabama Crimson Tide host the LSU Tigers. Alabama's 8, and I believe LSU's 13 or 14. AP versus playoff rankings have been kind of confusing to me. LSU, really great team. I tweeted this earlier in the week. I sat. It was probably like 11 o'clock at night. Of course, I had a lot better things to do, but I wasn't doing them at the time. If you take a look at kind of the defense and offensive rankings of some of the top teams who played this year, just A&M, number 9 defensively, offense number 61. Tennessee, number 17 defense, offense 34. Arkansas, 37 D, offense 119. Texas, number 38 defensively, offensively number 15. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, kind of similar. Just main theme of this is that LSU's offense is the best offense we've seen this year. Yes, that is a true statement.
Hmm.
If you look at their defense is not. Their defense is ranked 89. And I think in a game like this, there's got to be some kind of balance. Like I keep saying, we have not played an offense like LSU this year. Great. But when a team is relying that heavily on their offense and they're going up against a great defense on the road, I just think, and maybe this is just the Bama homer in me, I just think that's kind of a recipe for disaster. So as great as LSU is, and those receivers are going to be so tough to cover. You got Malik Neighbors is having a phenomenal year. I mean, LSU just seems to find these receivers. Homegrown, same with Brian Thomas. Great. They have so many weapons. It's not even talking about tight end Mason Taylor, who famously beat us last year. But I think also if you're comparing the two teams, like last year to this year, LSU is the same team. They're the same team. And I think Alabama, minus Bryce Young and Will Anderson, is a lot better. And the areas that hurt Alabama last year, and this is so long-winded for me, the areas that hurt Alabama last year in this game, I think have been addressed. Mostly that's on the defensive side of the ball. And Tommy Rees will still have to call a great game. And it doesn't matter how many guys are out for LSU or how bad their defense is going to be. They're going to be up for this game. And Alabama is going to need to score a lot of points to win this game. But I just think, I take long-winded again. I'm going to take Alabama to cover the 3 points. I like them at home. It's a night game, hostile environment. Those fans are going to be drunk and rowdy and crazy. And I trust Alabama's defense to get the job done at home.
I agree. And I think that this is one of those games where Jaden Daniels going to make plays, right? You just have to limit the number of plays that he can make. I think that with their receiving core as good as them and having a mobile quarterback, they're going to score. Like you said, their offense is good. I think our defense matches up a lot better against them than we did last year. I mean, you look at like the Ole Miss game, we held Ole Miss who like to 10 points, and then they turned around and dropped 50 on LSU the next week. So that being said, it's just like the offense always worries me a little bit. And granted, I mean, they've delivered every game except the Texas game when they need to. But we can't have a bunch of drives stall out. We can't have a bunch of dumb mistakes if we're going to beat a team like LSU. So I think that if Milroe can kind of limit the mistakes that he makes, and who knows, with that off week, maybe he's going to come out and just absolutely light it up. I would hope so. That'd be awesome.
They said he's looked good in practice this week. I mean, what else are you going to say? But
right, exactly. Like, our QB sucks. No, but so I'm interested to see how the offense responds. I think defensively we're going to match up a lot better than we did last year. And I think that'll be enough. And I'm taking Alabama to win.
Just kind of talking about Milroe real quick to close it up. He lit up Texas A&M's defense, the number 9 ranked defense in the country. Now he's got to be sitting there looking his chops when he sees that he's going up against an LSU defense at home who's ranked number 89. So it's kind of weird because you expect Alabama to score a lot of points in this game. So if they start off slow, it's going to stress me out. But there should be no reason that Alabama shouldn't score 40 plus in this game. But at the same time, rivalry game, you don't really know what you're going to get. LSU offensively is an absolute nightmare. But I mean, I think you have to let LSU, I mean, they're going to score, I would say, between 24 and 27 points. If you're scoring a lot on offense, you can let them score like 30, but I don't think you can let them score more than 30 points.
Yeah. And
I also think defensively, you've got to bring a lot of pressure. I don't like, and I've said this about Kevin Steele all year, you do not have to, it's 3rd and long, you do not have to blitz and leave the middle of the field open with your linebackers.
Especially not against a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't go zero coverage against a mobile quarterback.
Be aggressive on 1st and 2nd down. That's fine. Yeah. But 3rd down at home with that environment, trust your defense to get it done. Because if you start blitzing your linebackers like you've done in recent games with the playmakers they have, Jay Daniels is just going to sit back and go. And he can still do that. But, I mean, do not blitz. And that's my only gripe with the defense this year is blitzing on third and long, setting up. Because, like clockwork, it sets, whoever's quarterback just throws it over the middle, first down. Only gripe.
I don't know. I think that you can't run like man blitzes on third down as well because that's just inviting the quarterback to run if you don't get him right away. And I don't know. The last thing I'll say on this is that every week it seems recently Milrose had one half where he's looked like a top quarterback and then one half where he's just done nothing. And so I think he's going to need 2 complete halves this week. Like the offense is not just Milrose, the offense as a whole needs to have 2 complete halves. And I think that we'll win, but I think that will be okay.
So, get a score prediction out of you. I know you're a good score prediction guy.
I'll say 31-21.
Ooh, 31-21. I'm gonna say Bama 38, LSU 27. So I mean we're right around the same. We both think Bama's gonna take care of business, cover the 3-point spread. LSU, like I said, and I keep saying this, worries me with all the weapons they have, but this Bama defense is special. I mean, Kool-Aid and Terrian have played well this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ability this year that we've had to generate pressure with Chris Broswell and Dallas Turner, I think two of the top 5 sack leaders in the country right now or something like that. I might be butchering that, but I think you generate pressure without blitzing on third down. Your corners take care of business and limit the receivers as much as you can. I think Bama. I think they take care of business. It's going to be a good game. I'm glad it's a night game too. Prime time spot. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's stressful to think about, but all signs point to Bama taking care of business. This isn't like a 2019 LSU type of situation. I hope not. I don't think it is. But yeah, that's all I got tonight. Thank you everybody who's tuned in. We went an hour, but we missed a week, so we had to give the people some good content, and both just looking forward to that Bama game. But everybody have a good rest of your night, and we will see you. Hopefully Bama take care of business.
Bye.